Episode 12, Bahrain and Daytona 500.
I'm sure there'll be, if we've got any racing drivers listening, I'm sure they'll grin at what I'm just about to say. But they're very selfish individuals, and they're always trying to manipulate everything
Really?
to get to get to.
Never come across that one, Mark, but
Yeah,
I'll look it
exactly,
up.
Kenneth, exactly, yeah.
Welcome to the Two Mechanics podcast. Kenny Handkammer and Mark Grain have 18 Formula One World Championships between them, have been in the Guinness Book of World Records twice. They have over 30 years of motorsport stories between them, not to mention the 40,000 beers. Cheers. What you say?
So, Kenny, what are we saying?
Been a big weekend, big week with F1 testing. I've got another one to do next week, but between that, NASCAR, Bathurst, Formula E activity on track, good and bad. Yes, there's a lot to cover, I think. So, yeah,
it's the motorsport is warming up nicely into the new year now, isn't it? To your point, two iconic races there, Bathurst and Daytona 500. Formula E racing out in Jeddah and some of their on track activities, but of course it's been the end of the first week of Bahrain Formula One testing, and it's definitely been a challenging week for every team, I reckon. I don't know what you've picked up on, but from former colleagues and just some messages I've had from those guys, it seems to be very, very, very challenging, even for the cars that seem to be the best sorted at the moment. I don't know what you've heard, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, that's on top of the normal mind games and sandbagging. And, I think Mercedes are much further down the line than they think. And they are playing a bit of a game. But they all are, right? Red Bull the same, Ferrari, there's a lot of sandbagging going on. We don't really know with Williams. We know there's a couple of woes with Aston Martin, which is a shame. But yeah, I mean, that's just part of the business, isn't it? But I think, what the thing that I'm worried about is there seems to be a delta of 4.5 seconds between, the cars on a lap time. I mean, 4.5 seconds, that's gonna put us into the 107% rule if we're not careful. And we haven't seen that for a very long time, since the pre-qualifying days, probably back in the early 90s. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm really hoping for here is I don't want to see a team like Aston Martin with Adrian at the helm and great race car driver like Fernando struggling like he is. So I really want to hope that in the second week of testing at Bahrain, that those guys start to close up that gap. I think that's the biggest shock. The biggest shock coming out of that first week is their pace and their struggles, and you see the car locking up. You see, we've got all of this how the car has to use it's kind of like engine braking, but it's the regen, it's the engine being used to charge up the battery pack in the braking area and shifting down into these low gears to deliberately provoke and spool up the turbo and charge up the battery, and it's just making that car very unstable. So I'm really hoping that they can chomp away at that. Of course, they did start their test program later than everybody else. It's widely known that the whole program was to the tune of 4.5, 5 months behind where they wanted it to be, where ideally it should have been. So they'll be working flat out and very hard, and Adrian is a.
But
Adrian's just he's a workaholic, so that'll be I really hope that they can recover for the second week. That's the big thing for me. There's plenty more to talk about Bahrain, but that for me at the moment, that's the one that's caused me the most disappointment.
Yeah, but can you imagine first race of the season if the 107% rule is in, and we've got cars that are packing up on Saturday and not racing on Sunday? I think you want to explain the 107% rule, Mark.
Well, you've got to qualify within 107% of the pole time. Other than that, then you are at risk of not being allowed to start the race. So, and I think that's
basically, haven't you? You're a horrible back marker, and you're going to
yeah. I think it's a regulation that from memory, the FIA can choose to waiver. I seem to remember that, but we'll see. What you're asking me, Ken, is about the regulations that we have right now and what we think will be starting with in Melbourne. And I think there's going to be, I think the FIA are going to have to flex on some regulations, and mostly they surround how you use these cars, the strategy about harvesting energy and energy deployment, and how you can do that safely. And of course, there's a lot of talk about the dangers or the potential dangers of the cars on the starting grid, and the big difference between a car that's at the front and then can spool up but he's having to sit there for ages and his tires are getting cold, and the cars that are joining the grid at the back and now they won't have as much time to get this energy into the battery, and they can be launching from a mid-grid position and have faster cars behind them. It's in some ways I really like this, because the FIA have delivered a package of regulations for these cars, and the teams have done what the teams always do, which is go out there and kind of wring the technical regulations neck. Do you know what I mean? And they've run the car's neck, and they've come up with these different problems and so on. And it's not really the fault of the FIA, because the FIA don't have the ability to design one of these cars and go and drive it. They can do their simulations and so on and all of that stuff. But, you put what is now 11 teams of incredibly intelligent race car engineers and technicians and the best drivers in the world. And this is the outcome. They found holes in it. These cars aren't performing how, with the wishes and the intent of the FIA moving forward and the new regulations, and let's not hold back here. These regulations were constructed by very, very intelligent people, but also with the wishes of the engine manufacturers and the big OEMs, and how they wanted this relevancy to their road car products, and that's why they're in Formula One. So it's a shared responsibility is how I would term it, and I think it's a shared responsibility for everybody to fix it.
Yeah, but there's a lot to fix, isn't there? So if you look at,
I think one of the interesting points, one of the interesting points that I'd like to ask you about is, you've, for at least the last 2, maybe 3 podcasts, have been very critical about this generation of car and how you need to drive it to get the most out of it in qualifying, for example. And you said you were very big on, I don't like it. I don't like it. It should be just flat out absolute, a test of machine and driver. And a friend of yours, and you're very friendly with him and his father, and he's arguably, one of the best drivers out there right now. Max has come out and said almost identically what you've been saying, and I wonder what you thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Max is a pure racer. That's why he's looking at doing Nürburgring and doing other things. He likes a proper engine. He likes to drive and wring the neck of every piece of equipment that he drives without having to save this, save that. I think he was also critical about one of the things that I talked about, which was the aerodynamics of the car moving without the driver having any input. This is dangerous. And I don't really see a massive advantage compared to what we used to have back in the old days, where you could deploy those types of things before. We had push to pass with active ride, which took the front wing off for passing. And I think if you've got things like that, you should just give them to the driver freely to use whenever they want to, rather than this controlled automatic, and it's going to take a lot for the driver to comprehend. But remember, all these wings being deployed and not being deployed, that's going to be in every single track around the world. They're going to be in different parts of the circuit. And I know they're all very clever people, but there's a lot to do. And I think it just takes away the drivability and a pure driver. I mean, Mark, we did this because we were racers, right? And, we've always wanted to see, extreme, technology, but used by the best drivers in the world. And I don't think this is doing it for us. This is not for me. I mean, getting rid of the MGU, was that a mistake? I don't know. But this half, call it whatever, power unit and half battery, it's not doing it for me. I made it quite clear at the beginning. I think it's a bit shit, to be honest.
Yeah, it is a fine balancing act. I mean, it's not irretrievable. We shouldn't, we haven't done a race yet, and we've still got another test to go yet. So we don't want people, anybody listening. This is, we don't think this is going to be doom by any means, because I think there's enough brain power in the paddock and in Geneva to get a long way, get some fixes implemented.
It seems too complicated for me for the spectator. There's an awful lot for the teams to take on board, but for the spectator that wants to see raw racing, do we really need this? That's my point.
I mean, that's one of the things that's come about, and to the point you made earlier, there's been several drivers who have said, well, actually, they think that overtaking is going to be more difficult now. And you have to be careful, because racing drivers are very smart at getting their own way, right? Well, they are. Come on, they're in. I'm sure there'll be if we've got any racing drivers listening, I'm sure they'll grin at what I'm just about to say. But they're very selfish individuals, and they're always trying to manipulate everything to get
Never come across that one, Mark. But
exactly, Kenneth, exactly, yeah. To get everything, they try and bend the whole team around them, not just their side of the garage. Then they're trying to influence what's going on in the paddock. Then they're trying to influence the race director. It's all about them. It's all about them. It's all about them. So you have to take everything with a little pinch of salt. And the very best. The very best are the ones who can really exert that influence. And of course, those ones are also the ones that have won championships and so on. And therefore, people want to listen to their opinions. So it's very easy for them to say and get their messages across in the paddock, and now, of course, in modern times, in all the various forms of media. So we'll see how that all goes.
I mean, we've got another test, haven't we? So we'll see a lot more next week, and people might end up being a little bit honest on the last half an hour of the test, to scare a few of the competitors. I mean, there is, we are starting to now build up a bit of form picture. Ferrari do seem to be performant. They seem to have got a good race car. They seem to be on top of the new PE regulations and all the rest of it. I think Lewis has described these cars more like rallying style rather than the previous generation of. Talking of Lewis, something else we should talk about is he still has no engineer, which I'm absolutely baffled with.
Absolute mystery to me. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, again, we mentioned it previously that
where is
there's rumours of the guy coming from McLaren, but it's all too late for me. You've got to be working. Ferrari can talk about it and put a brave face on it. Honestly, if it was your team, Kenny, if you were team manager, your sporting director, whatever it may be, there's no way that you would choose to not have one of your drivers working with his intended engineer for that year. No chance. It's just not a good way to operate.
On top of that, there's a reason why he's not with his engineer now. It's because he's obviously had are not the greatest relationship, or they didn't see eye to eye, or whatever it is. So the first thing that he needs straight after the first race is a stable engineer and build a relationship. And this makes zero sense to how Ferrari are going to, make Lewis successful within the team.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my biggest.
I think they've got. I think they seem to have a pretty decent car. It seems to what Lewis is saying. He does. He tends to. It looks like he's manipulating the rear of the car and he's sliding the car a little bit more than Charles. But generally, they seem to have a pretty good package. They are doing that. Going, sometimes they'll hook second instead of keep second instead of going down to the first, and seem to manage to be still spooling up their turbo, which charges the battery and blah blah blah. So they do seem to be doing that. I think Audi, moving on to those guys, I'm just randomly picking out a team here, right? I think Audi seem to be struggling a little bit. It's on turning from what I've seen and from what I'm hearing. It's a little bit unstable there, and I think they're kind of a mid-grid team. Red Bull, your old team, Kenny, I think are right there. I think they've got a good chassis. I think all the chassis tend to be, and the setup of the cars seem to be a little bit more rake and a little bit softer, and going away from those ground effect cars which ran flatter and lower and stiffer. So I can see that, and it looks to me like most of the cars are in that kind of mode, and Red Bull very much one of those cars, and it seemed to be a good chassis for these regulations, and a good power unit.
I think a little bit of a dark horse is Haas, actually, because they've done tons and tons of laps. They're decent lap times, and they seem to just be head down and just getting on and cracking on with it. I think that's a real good positive for Haas so far. But let's see when people start to drain their fuel out. Not everybody will actually drain all their fuel out for the last test, because they want to keep that until Melbourne, as we know. But yeah, I think let's see what next week brings us. And yeah, but generally, the other thing I think, which I'm a bit surprised about, I know they're new PUs, whatever you want to call them, lump engines, is the top speed, right? Top speed, is 344 kilometers the last test to Aston, which are 326, is 18 kilometers difference. I mean, that is if someone who runs past you at 18 kilometers faster than you are, that's a big thing.
Big delta, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think I'm a bit worried about there's just going to be such massive gaps in between. I think you'll get 2 or 3 teams that are going to be pretty close-ish, same ballpark. And there might be one that runs away with it. But I'm worried about things, the back end of the grid are going to be just so far away.
Yeah, again, I mean, from the FIA to a degree, right, have been painted into a bit of a corner with Andrea from McLaren talking about urging the FIA to review start procedures and so on. Something therefore will need to be done about energy harvesting and so on, and how that, and the metrics and the software and everything that allows that to take place. It's not like McLaren have got a load of horsepower to make the FIA do anything, but of course it puts the FIA in a very difficult situation, whereby if something does go wrong, and heaven forbid, then there'll be enough people jumping up and down now saying, "Well, we told you so." So they've got to listen. They will be listening. They're not fools. And for people listening to this podcast, please, the FIA are like smart individuals, and they get a lot of criticism. It's very difficult to stay on top of these like super smart teams and the way that they figure out how to operate their racing cars. So I'm sure it'll be a collaborative process in order to make sure that we've got competitive and safe cars on the grid in Melbourne. I think you were just talking about fuel loads, and I was going to run through each team individually, but sort of generally, I see a little bit of inconsistency, and I do wonder. Sometimes the cars seem to be really nailed, and those hard braking situations and hard downshifts where they're harvesting. Sometimes the cars can look pretty nailed, and then sometimes they'll go back out and same car, same team, same driver, and then it can look very loose and inconsistent. And I wonder if that's just fuel loads. I wonder if these cars are more susceptible to that weight change, and that makes them a little bit more tricky when you've got, I don't know, 60 kilos in the car compared to 25 kilos of fuel in the car. I'm not sure, so we'll see. But yeah, an interesting week, of testing with. It's incredible how much all of the teams over just 3 days have made, and all the things that they're flushing out, all the information that we're getting. To our audience and the people that are listening, please just be a bit aware. There's a lot of talk out there about this is going to be a Mercedes-Benz whitewash this year, and Aston Martin are going to fail to qualify, and you're not going to be there. Come on, just
far too early for any of that. Far too early.
Oh, good grief! Please, just keep your powder dry for a little while. Don't stress. These people will get these cars sorted, and we'll get some good racing. I'm really sure of that. And talking of good racing, we did touch upon earlier on the fact that it was a busy weekend in motorsport across the globe.
Yeah, I didn't get to the Bathurst. You're a bit more of a Bathurst man than me, anyway. I think, but yeah, it's always a good event, and we've had Formula E and NASCAR, the Daytona 500. That last lap was just incredible. I don't know if any of the viewers have saw any of that, but if not, it's on YouTube. Please go back and have a look at it. And yeah, it was. Tyler Reddick won the race in the end, co-owned by Michael Jordan. So the last thing he needs is another Daytona. I think he's okay for Rolex right now.
I know a nice home for that Daytona. I know where he could,
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know there were 25 different leaders in that race in the Daytona 500? That's a new record. It's incredible, eh? And
it's worth looking. It's worth looking at.
Yeah. And to your point, Tyler Reddick, who went on to win when the white flag came out, which is in the US racing, that's the signal for the last lap. That it was incredible, and he drove really well. He drove really smart. He got a good draft, as it's called in the US, which is a toe in European racing. He got a good aero toe, good draft, and he really positioned the car well and made the most out of what was a chaotic last lap. So yeah, fantastic to him.
I mean, the other thing that makes me laugh is they're a bit tongue-in-cheek, NASCAR boys. They get sort of branded, and it's because they were from Carolina, etc. But their professionalism and the way they do things, and they're very tongue-in-cheek and seem to enjoy it. They have. Someone dressed up as Bart Simpson drops a flag at the beginning and all of this stuff. Isn't it nice just to have some fun, right? And do something that who gives a shit. It's that's quite entertaining. I think we need to be a bit more light-hearted in all motorsports, to be honest, and have a bit more fun with it.
I agree.
Very entertaining.
And the Indy. Yeah, the Indy 500 is absolutely like that with the pit stop challenge and the music banging out and all the rest of it. It's just it's a big party atmosphere. So I couldn't agree more. I think the way that racing in the US is very professional, but they realise it's also entertainment business. And whilst the teams take the racing very seriously, the championships are not up themselves. They don't. They want people to go there and have a good time. They're not up themselves too much. And Formula E in Jeddah. That was a another win for Felix da Costa, who I personally think is a very, very fast racing driver. I've seen him in different categories of race. I know people who have worked with him. I'd love to see him in a different car as well as a Formula E car. He's been proven to be very successful there. And then
Costa is amazing. Very underrated driver. It's a shame he didn't have a good enough stab in Formula One with under the caretaker of Dr. Marco at Toro Rosso as it was at the time. I think he's fast in everything he gets into.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And he's a lovely guy. Obviously, we know him personally, and he's just proper bloke, So wish him all the best for the rest of the season.
Yeah, there was another little story from that weekend is the fact that the Cupra Kiro team, the two drivers there, they lock horns with each other, Dan Ticktum and Pepe Marti. So that's a job for my old mate Gary Paffett for two. Gary's there I think he's sporting director or team principal. I can't remember exact role, but
that's our heads together, yeah.
So and if anybody's qualified to do that, it's Gary. Obviously as a former race car driver, he's I was grinning to myself thinking, "Oh, Gary's got his hand full now." So that was it.
He's got a finger about 2 foot long, isn't he? Waving that around at him.
Yeah, Gary got massive hands. I guess on a shall we say a serious note, that Richard Hammond, the ex Top Gear and Grand Tour presenter, his daughter Izzy Hammond drove a Formula E car, and unfortunately she shunted it. And to me, obviously, Formula E is the sister championship to the one that I work in, and I'm in Extreme E, Extreme H, and we're all in the same offices together, and just on the top floor there in Hammersmith, and so they are our sister championship. And I think, whilst it's obviously great to get people to drive race cars, it's just a warning that. Race cars, unless you really know what you're doing, will turn around and bite you. They are very sophisticated pieces of equipment, and luckily Izzy got away with it. She drove into it seems to me that she understeered. It looked to me like the car wasn't being driven hard enough to make the front aero work and help it turn in, and it was being effectively driven too slow, which made it crash. And thankfully she was okay, but that's race cars for you. They're not toys, Yeah,
no, I agree. And the other thing is that, especially Formula E, is quite complex, right? There's the regen and all the other stuff that goes with it. It's not like getting into normally aspirated engine car. If it would have been like an old school F3 car or something, things are a little bit different. So it was. I think it was a challenge for her, but luckily she wasn't hurt. But you're right that you shouldn't just, there's a lot of influencers out there that might think they can match somebody off the street and probably been doing their sim racing and think they can
exactly my point
happen. And I think I think not good.
No. So yeah. Quite a big weekend in motor racing. Like I say, building up. We're edging ever closer to the start of all of these different seasons, and but kicking off with the Daytona 500, following on from the Daytona 24 Hours, and also, like say, Bathurst, which was a great result and a great race, and great result for Mercedes-Benz out there in their GT cars. And we've got another week of F1 testing coming up, so there's plenty still to talk about and analyse. And I think it's crucial week coming up for Formula One. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, I look forward to next week because they're flat out in between rebuilding the cars, but also to come up with all their different other problem-solving solutions, etc. So let's see where we end up next week. But yeah, this hopefully we've got another good podcast for next week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody, for listening. And you can get these podcasts wherever you choose to get your podcasts from. Or we're on all the different platforms these days. So please, again, don't hesitate to give us your feedback. It's all greatly accepted. Any questions, anything that we'll always try to endeavour to answer them ourselves. And if not, we'll go away and we'll message our friends and former colleagues in whatever paddock in the world. Kenny and I have got mates in lots of different forms of motor racing, all through sports cars, Formula One, and everything. So let us know, and also let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, any topics, anything that you want us to take away and go and think about and build a podcast around. We're more than happy to do that. So, but from me, thank you, everybody, and
we're quite good at making up stuff, so let's see if anybody's got any questions or anything we want us to
out of necessity sometimes in the past.
100%. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.